Okay, focus activity number 1 for the 4-6 weeks. If a rocket is launched from ground level, the maximum height that it reaches is given by h equals v squared times sine squared of theta over 2g, where theta is the angle between the ground and the initial path of the rocket, v is the rocket's initial speed, and g is the acceleration due to gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared. So A, verify that v squared sine squared theta over 2g actually equals v squared tangent squared of theta over 2g secant squared of theta. Okay. So this one we actually really should be able to take care of in just 1 or 2 steps. What would I do? Okay, so Satish says start on the right. Okay. Do you want me to leave tangent as is or rewrite it? Okay, so let's go ahead and change those 2 trig functions. V squared times tangent squared sine squared of theta over cosine squared of theta. And this is all divided by. Now, secant squared is 1 over cosine squared. So I'm going to say 2g over cosine squared of theta. And then what was it you said, sir? Okay, so he says multiply by the reciprocal. So this is v squared times my sine squared of theta over the cosine squared of theta times cosine squared of theta over sine squared of theta. Okay. Oops, accidentally added in something that I didn't need to. Looking at the wrong thing. So that is cosine squared of theta over 2g. Sorry about that. So the cosine squares cancel, and if I multiply that back together, we do get the v squared sine squared of theta over 2g. Okay. So it is a valid statement. Now B, suppose a second rocket is fired at an angle of 80 degrees. Okay, so that's theta. From the ground with an initial speed of 110 meters per second. What variable does that represent? Okay, that's velocity. Okay, so that's v. And then it says find the maximum height of the rocket. So what was g again? Yeah, g was the acceleration due to gravity, and we know that is 9.8 meters per second squared. So really it just comes down to a formula where you're going to plug everything in. The height would be the squared initial speed, so 110 squared, times sine squared of 80 degrees, all divided by 2g, 2 times 9.8. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and type it in using my keyboard and mouse. So let's see here. Let me get a... Okay, so 110 squared, parentheses, sine of 80. I want to go ahead and square that. Okay. Remember, because squaring that will square the trig function, not the 80 that I'm plugging in. And then down here, I'm going to plug in 2 times 9.8. Okay. So what's the maximum height of the rocket under these circumstances? What should I be getting? What's that? 598.7. Perfect. Okay, meters. So about 598.7 meters. Okay. Is anybody getting anything different? Yeah, this. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Now, in the next week or so, we'll be turning these in. I'm going to try to get as many of those as I can. But hang on to this one. All right. We'll get the second one sometime this week, and then we'll continue next week. Okay. And don't forget, this weekend, you have a 3-day weekend. Everybody knows you guys are off on Monday. Okay, because we have a content focus session, so professional development that day. So next week is going to be another short week. There's been a lot of short weeks in this grading period. So there we go.